Alright, hello ladies and gentlemen, welcome to a video that I think is a little bit of a special one for a lot of guitar players. Today I want to delve into one of the most iconic guitars of all time while we're still lucky enough to have it in the shop. So before this guitar sells, which it undoubtedly will do very quickly, I wanted to spend a few more minutes with you talking through this amazing master-built Gretsch custom shop White Falcon. So some of you may have seen the listing video that we recently filmed for this guitar. And when I was doing that, I was very conscious of the fact that this is kind of the guitar that epitomizes to most people out there, including myself. It really is the epitome of Gretsch guitars, and for a lot of people this is the one Gretsch that I think if you had to pick one above all the rest, this is the one that you would aspire to own. And speaking as a player who's not really a Gretsch fanatic, I've never really kind of bought into the whole Gretsch guitars thing. I'm yet to find that magic one for myself to turn me over to Gretsch guitars. This one is a very strong contender for that. It's very persuasive in that kind of an argument. If you've never had a great experience with Gretsch guitars before, chances are you've never played a White Falcon. When this guitar was introduced at the 1954 NAMM show, head designer of Gretsch guitars at the time, Jimmy Webster, really wanted to make this a very special unveiling and really treat it as a lot of car manufacturers did at the time, where they would just unveil a real showstopper of a car model. He wanted to apply the same logic to Gretsch guitars, and so the White Falcon was really born out of that desire to create a show-stopping piece, something that really had no holds barred, no compromises to it, and it really could show off the full extent of the craftsmanship of the workmen and women in the Gretsch factory at the time. That's exactly where this guitar came from, so it was really born of showing off. It was not designed to be a practical instrument, it was really designed to show off Gretsch to their full extent, and that's exactly what it does. Still to this day, it's, as I said, it's very much the flagship guitar for them. So in terms of its spec, it differs from certain Gretsch guitars that most people will be aware of, the 6120s and stuff like that, not too wildly. It's really about just taking all those great Gretsch elements and just pushing them as far as they possibly could. So for example, the finishing on the original guitars, utilising stuff like 24 karat gold in different ornamentations on the finish of this guitar, was really a way for them just to push the boat out as far as they could. However, that kind of came back to bite them a little bit, because this guitar proved to be so popular that they just couldn't keep up with the workload demands for this guitar when it came out, so they really had to ask themselves some serious questions about productions for these guitars. And that's part of the reason, I think, obviously coupled with the fact that these were very expensive guitars for the time, just due to the amount of work hours that went into each one. You don't see very many originals anymore. They're very hard to come by, and if you do come by one, it's going to be hellishly expensive. So that's of course where the Gretsch Custom Shop comes in, to recreate these golden era of White Falcon guitars as best as they possibly can. Master builder Stephen Stern at the Gretsch Custom Shop really put a lot of effort, you can tell, into this 58 White Falcon guitar. Couple of spec changes throughout the course of the White Falcon's history, most notably in 57 they changed to the dual TV Jones classic pickups, or at least that's what this guitar is adorned with, the humbucking TV Jones style pickups. Really transformed the sound of the instrument from the real sort of thin Filtertron era of Gretsch sound into the more modern humbucking pickups. And actually, I've talked about this in previous videos, they don't get enough credit for the fact that this actually preceded the PAF, this design of humbucking pickup at the time. So Gretsch were really one of the very first companies to install a humbucking pickup in their guitar. Of course, the likes of Gibson then went on, kind of took that humbucker idea and ran with it a little bit more than Gretsch did. It became associated with the Gibson sound, but in actual fact, the Gretsch sound really relies on these amazing sounding classic humbucking pickups. Okay, so let me just delve into the spec of this master built guitar a little bit more before I go on to talk a little bit more about what I think the White Falcon, why it's such a special guitar, and show you some more tones. So in terms of the spec, as I said, it doesn't differ too greatly from a lot of the foundations of other Gretsch guitars. You've got a maple body and a maple neck. The White Falcon is definitely one of the most visually striking guitars in Gretsch's range, not because of the finishes necessarily, but also because of the sheer size of this 17-inch body. So it's very much a jumbo guitar, if you like to think of it that way. Acoustically as well, you probably won't tell from this microphone I've got on, but it's got a lot of strumming power to it. And it really makes this guitar, that's kind of part of the experience. You really feel that when you're playing it electrically, and of course if you're playing it acoustically, you get a lot of that natural woody resonance as well. The dual TV Jones classic pickups I talked about before as well. I think this is kind of the perfect era of spec for Gretsch guitars, this late 50s, 58, 59. Similarly to how people revere those era of Gibson and Fender guitars, I think this is when Gretsch were at their peak as well. Tonally, this guitar can kind of sit anywhere from doing the bright, jangly kind of Gretsch sound, which I kind of showed you at the introduction of this video. But as we go on and I talk about a couple of the players that have adorned these guitars in the past, these pickups will also deliver on some higher gain overdriven tones as well. It's got a lot of that meaty rock edge to it if that's what you wanted to do as well. Modern appointments, in terms of those, you've got a master volume here with a treble bleed on it. So if anyone's unsure on the layout of the electronics of this guitar, you've got a master volume which just controls the overall volume of the two pickups. You've then got a separate volume control for each pickup. So when you've got the middle position, you can blend just the right amount of each pickup that you want, which I think is really useful. And as I say, it's got treble bleed on there, so you don't lose any high frequencies when you turn down the master volume control. Three-way pickup selector switch, and also a three-way tone switch, which I think is really interesting. Quite novel, fairly unique to Gretsch guitars as well. When it's in this middle position, it's kind of the pickups wide open, and then downwards you start to lose a little bit of tone. All the way up is kind of the dark woolly sound that will enable you to get some jazzier tones out of this guitar. Okay, so something you'll have heard in that clip there is just how dynamic this guitar can be, all the way from the chimey, clean Gretsch stuff that it's well known for. When you start to add some gain on it and use the bridge pickup, it turns into a little bit of a fire breather as well. And that's kind of testament to the players that have used this as well. It's a really diverse list. Just thinking about this today, some of the guys that came to mind immediately were players like Neil Young, and then more modern players like Billy Duffy from the Cult have adopted this guitar as kind of their signature sound as well. You've also got players like Brian Setzer, who's a very tried and true kind of dyed-in-the-wool Gretsch guy, and also very famously Malcolm Young as well. So that list alone kind of signifies just how versatile this guitar is and always has been. And also it kind of strikes me that this is the guitar that you would buy when you've made it. This is definitely the Gretsch guitar that signifies that you've arrived as a musician, and it was definitely treated as such by a lot of those guitar players that I talked about. So let me just give you a couple more examples of how great this guitar can sound. I don't really need to talk too much about the White Falcon. It's kind of got a history of its own, and just visually alone it speaks for itself in a very unique way. It's definitely one of the most legendary guitar designs of all time, and it certainly will continue to be so. We're very lucky to have kind of Gretsch Custom Shop doing its thing to this extent and showing you just how painstakingly they recreate all the fine minutiae of these guitars as they were back in the day. You can really kind of recreate that magic and that vibe for yourself in no other way, you know, the master built stuff. Same with Fender, same with Gibson's custom shops. Gretsch's custom shop, master built level. Stephen Stern really knows what he's doing, and he transforms these. They're kind of little time capsules, and I know that's a little bit of a cliche for any guitar that's reissuing on an old design, but in terms of Gretsch guitars, like I say, speaking as someone who's not a Gretsch fanatic, you can definitely capture as much of that Gretsch vibe that you could possibly dream of in this one guitar. So I think that's about it for today. If you want any more information about this guitar that I haven't talked about in this video, you can find that out at peachguitars.com. Also, if you haven't seen it already, go back and check out the listing video that I've shot for this guitar, which is just all instrumental, and that was very much, that was the first time I played this guitar, so that was definitely the first thing that just came out of me. It shows you just how dynamic and interesting these guitars are to play. I'm going to throw out another big cliche here and just say that this guitar is just kind of a song machine, and it will just pull out songs from you. So if that's the kind of instrument you're looking to consider, definitely consider a White Falcon as the top of your priority list for that factor. Okay, so I'm going to play you out on this White Falcon now with some overdriven tones. I hope you've enjoyed this little closer look at the Gretsch White Falcon. As I say, head to peachguitars.com for some more information. Take care of yourselves, and thanks for watching.